This is a presentation for an evangelical dating site attempting to fix the world through connecting people. We have a problem. The United States birth rate is the lowest it's been in a century. Dating apps are failing. Originally they were about finding people who you matched with, but now they're about swiping left and right and whether or not you think someone is attractive, which works well for people who are attractive, but doesn't necessarily work well for anyone else. There's so much about chemistry that isn't found there, and lots of bad things come from that. And actually, women are now starting to join Christian dating sites who aren't particularly Christian to find men who are interested in marriage because they can't find them elsewhere. The solution is to make a web-based platform to make connections, right? Connect singles for dating and marriage, connect singles to make new friends, to live in their that share their values, connect singles with activities held at churches for singles. So who am I? I'm 43 years old. I've studied some computer science, I've studied history, I have a degree in history, and have graduate hours in history. I have a degree in library and information science, and I've been studying data science. In that time, in my life, I've also worked some construction and remodeling jobs, and worked at UPS and other things. I've only ever attempted a project like this once. It was a system for managing the facilities maintenance records for live-in facilities like nursing homes. I've been studying data science the last year and a half. Because this is about religion, my religion matters. I am Lutheran. I am not Evangelical. I am not Baptist. I'm not any of these things. And where I live, right where I live, and when I was growing up, they were Baptists, right? There's before the whole evangelical thing became a thing. And frankly, I had some bad experiences with them. That's just how it is. However, my sister is evangelical, and that is not a subject that gets talked about, because that's just what it is. I am single, I'm looking for someone, but I'm not going to find it on the site, because these won't be my people. Because my people are Lutherans and Catholics, not evangelicals. So why this idea? So the origin was Sutton made some comment about a dating site or something, creating a dating site or whatnot. And so this is about what I came up with in about 10 minutes. One of the reasons I came up with this is that there's a really interesting Catholic dating site that is very successful. It's called AveMariaSingles.com, and one of the reasons it's very successful is because it's very targeted. In order to sign up for the site, you have to agree to accept the church's teachings, and you have to be able to prove that you are capable of getting married at the church. It's a one-time, like a $150 fee, and then it's forever, right? And then it's still until you find someone to marry. For the purpose of what we would be doing, it's going to be Baptist, Church of Christ, Evangelicals, right, which exist in large numbers, particularly in the Southeast, but are not particularly organized, and I'm not sure if there's reasons for that or not. That's outside of my scope of knowledge, but the point is to have it focused and targeted, because, particularly in the world today, everyone is being persecuted by everyone else, and finding the people who you belong with is really useful. I propose we start this as a religious nonprofit. While there's not a large monetary return, but there are massive advantages from it, particularly with the current administration, having some ability to discriminate is very useful, so that you're not pushed to try and have an LGBT community on there, or, whatever. It's like, you don't have to deal with those things because you can say it's religious. Another reason to go the nonprofit route is it needs your buy-in. People are much more likely to trust a religious nonprofit than they are to trust a profit company trying to do the same thing, because you don't know what they're trying to get from you. It doesn't, right? And one of the things that people get wrong about a nonprofit is it doesn't mean that you can't pay well, and it doesn't mean that we personally can't make good money and do well from this, so from such a thing. It just means that no one actually makes a profit from the organization. So money, how do you pay for this? So, right, young people don't necessarily have money. So my proposal is to do whole church community buy-in, right? If you charge $1 to $2 per average attendee per year for membership, right, to have all the single members of a church able to be on the site, right, that ends up being really affordable and really scalable and really sustaining. Right, you as long as you have the same money each year, you're not worried about whether or not you have to have ads or this not or that month. The other thing we might do is we might do like a $10, right? Do like a $10 for the average attendee to be like a sponsoring member of the site or whatever, or a founding member, right? You get your name in places and things like that. Right, this does two things. It provides a service for the churches, and it also gives the churches something that they can provide. The advantages of using your churches. So, one of the biggest problems with dating sites, and particularly from the viewpoint of women, is that men on them are not verified. And so by using churches, you can easily verify people who come onto the website, right? So you would so every church would have someone who had an account for verifying people, so you would make an account, and you'd go to your verification person and show them that you made an account, and they would put in a number, and it would, right, verify your account, and you would be tied to that church, and everyone would know that, and you're verified. The other thing it does is it enables churches to connect with users, right? So, for example, churches can have Bible studies for singles people, and they can be listed on the site, and that will enable people. Let's say you only have Wednesday night off, right? You can go, well, what Bible groups are around me for that time of the day, or if I'm in a different town one time a day, what's there? And they can also be used to create activities locally. Many people want to meet in a more holistic, sort of normal manner, and not through a dating app, right? It enables you to create those natural meeting scenarios by allowing churches to hold events for people to meet at. So how can all this be done? So there's a system called Drupal, which is a web platform. It's used to build massive websites for things like universities, IBM, the Weather Underground, weather.com, all sorts of stuff. Basically, you don't need to have a lot of computer programmers to build your system up, right? It already comes with the basic parts we need, because coders are expensive and computing power is cheap. It's like, right, you can always throw more computing power at a problem, but coders are difficult to find, and they aren't inexpensive, right? So one of the questions is always going to bring up is, do you web-based or do you mobile app-based? Well, you always start with web-based because you can have, right, because Drupal now automatically does things in a way that works well on phones, right? And so, and you don't have to try and build an iOS app and an Android app. And actually there are systems for Drupal that enable you to more easily build those apps for later if that is so chosen. So what do we need technically, right? So a web architect, that's me. It'd be good to have a Drupal programmer so that we can develop our own bits of code and pieces that we need to do things and put something back into the Drupal community. The other thing would be very nice to have is a Drupal server specialist, someone who knows how to make Drupal run really well on cloud servers and what works well and what doesn't. For visual layout and whatnot, we'd go with a contractor to do the themes, because it doesn't do a lot of good to have a visual person finish their job and still need to pay them. It just doesn't work well. This would easily be less than $300,000 a year, but we'll just call it $300,000 a year because, right, once you put it all together, it's, particularly when you put in server costs, it may very well get to that. So what do I need y'all to provide, I guess, is, right, so we need a CEO, someone who can actually run the nonprofit, someone who can, right, have bank accounts and taxes and all those sorts of things that aren't any fun. And then we need someone to sales. And this could be the same person to start off with. At some point, it probably have to diverge. Someone who can deal with the churches and get them on board with the thing, and manage non-technical issues they have. Find out what they like, find out what they don't like, those sorts of things. At some point, we probably will need some sort of sales team, some sort of, right, people to interact with the churches so that they have someone who they can contact. And let's just say that's $250,000, right? So that still sounds like a lot of money. But when you think that the Southern Baptist Conference has about 2 million people who attend their churches every Sunday, right? That's, right, $500,000 is well within a potential budget for what we're talking about, right? So what would be the plan? The plan is create a nonprofit, build a mock site so we can show people, and then, work some things out, and then start building the actual site. I would launch limited in Florida. By creating a limited geography, you can launch it, and you can let people use it, and you can work a lot of the kinks out before you try and go either expand or launch nationally. What do I need and expect? For now, I need $2,000 a month until the nonprofits are up to keep me afloat, because I have debt and student loans and all sorts of things. Founders pay. I think that we should give the founders, right, the people we are, right, going to be putting more work into it than other people will be, and not get paid right away. So one of the ways to deal with that is create some sort of founders pay, right? You get $1,000 a month over 20 years. After the nonprofit is on a solid footing, that will be increased by inflation every year. I'm fine with multiple people taking this, right? There's clearly a limit. And there should be the ability in the contracts for those things to be bought out. If I become an issue or someone else becomes an issue, right, the board should be able to purchase what is left on that money and be done with them. It can be made more, but I think it's important to reward the people who put in the groundwork. Will this work? I think it will. It needs to have a buy-in from the churches. It needs to have a buy-in from people, right? It's just kind of one of those things that it works on paper, but unless people can be convinced to buy into it, it won't work. And I have no ability to convince people to buy into it. I can only basically build most of the thing and certainly design it, right? And some of the technical things we may need to have, right, we may need people for, and that's fine. So let me know or not. If you're not interested, that's fine too. Thank you.